Produced by the Cleveland Sound Radio Network. Here is the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, hosted by Glenn Moore and Steve Guy.
Episode number 30 of the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Usually when you turn 30, Steve, it's a big midlife crisis. My ex-girlfriend went through a midlife crisis turning 30. But
I didn't. I was like, let's bring it on.
Usually if you're a woman, you go through a crisis. But the 30th episode, a milestone for us here, and it's a special show, as we'll be talking about AIW. We have Mr. John Thorne in studio here. We'll be getting to him shortly. But before we get to that, Steve, episode number 30 has to be a milestone, so we have to have a unique story. You and I are waiting in the parking lot.
2 weeks ago.
Yes, and waiting for the other show here in the studio, Take 3,
SidleySound.com. We said, let's get some fresh air.
Yeah, so we're chilling outside, and what do we see?
Well, we saw a white conversion van hanging out, and we're like, all right, there's a van there. And then we saw what appeared to be somebody getting dropped off to the van. We thought, I left their car there. No big deal.
Yeah.
And then they open up the passenger door. Oh, maybe they're just getting something out. More like put something in, and then closed the door, got back in the car that we thought was just dropping them off, went on their little way, and then all of a sudden that white van started up.
And went the opposite direction.
So what we're saying here, kids, is that Glenn Moore and I witnessed a drug deal.
We're not going to say where, but we
saw it from a distance.
Yeah, saw it from a distance. But that's what transpired last week before we recorded our show, and that's what we saw. Which I mean, it was like, okay, well, this person's going, and then all of a sudden the other person
broad
leaves.
Daylight.
Yeah.
No hiding it.
No, not at all. It was broad daylight, no hiding. A person went the other way, and carried on. So my first time ever seeing a drug deal live in person.
Yeah, and we know that it was nobody booked on one of John's shows because they didn't have one that week. So
right. So
way to blow my cover that I drive a white conversion van every other day.
All right, like I said, we have a very special guest on the milestone number 30 episode of This Is Awesome Wrestling Show from AIW. They have a big show this weekend, and we'll talk about that. And also, we'll just talk wrestling for the next hour here on the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Mr. John Thorne. And we want to say thank you because we had you on the show a few months ago. Johnny Gargano came in studio to promote an event. And since then, every show, you've let us come literally in the locker room, set up our podcast, and record 3, 4, 5 interviews for our show. And they've done very well. The reception from those interviews have done very, very well. So we just want to say thank you because, I mean, basically without you, we wouldn't have these great interviews with the likes of Chris Sabin, Too Cold Scorpio, EC3.
Brian Myers.
Yeah, Brian Myers. Yeah. The Young Bucks. You know, a lot of these.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of great interviews with a lot of great indie talent coming through. So we want to say thank you so much for letting us come out and do these interviews.
No problem. I mean, that's what, we're both Cleveland companies. We're both trying to make our little way in the niche entertainment field of professional wrestling, and anything I can do to help. I was very impressed and I'm once again impressed with the setup of this studio. Most of the podcast interviews I do involve a headset and Skype.
Yeah.
And there's usually a Blog Talk Radio advertisement that keeps ongoing. So, yeah, I'm very impressed with what you guys do. I think it's a good thing, and I think anything AIW can do to help you guys, and anything you guys can do to help AIW grow, will be beneficial for us both. We're both based in Cleveland, and
we could
I'm happy
Skype
to do it.
You want to Skype it next
No,
time?
man, I like coming in here and talk. I feel
Sitting on
important.
This nice couch.
I feel like this is really going to up my local celebrity game now that I've talked into a real microphone recording device with a soundboard and. They're checking levels and everything.
Yeah, check the levels and
Mic
stuff.
check. It's the full deal, man.
I feel like I've made it. I must say,
We have a couple, at least a few of my Twitter followers who have gone to their first AIW show, this past one, and DMing me saying, thanks for promoting it because they don't know. A lot of people don't know that there is a great indie scene here in Cleveland with former WB superstars. You have TNA, even back to WCW guys, and current Ring of Honor, current TNA people that come through and put on some great matches. And you've had packed crowds the last couple shows, and a lot of people don't know. So we can make people who like wrestling aware of what's going on here in Cleveland. I think it's a win-win.
And I mean, that's amazing because, being an independent wrestling promotion means we don't really have the resources to advertise or anything like that. We don't have sponsors. Everything that we do, we're a do-it-yourself operation, like total punk rock, just two dudes trying to figure out how to put on wrestling shows and how to get as many people there as possible as we can. So, we can't do commercials during Raw or, on the radio or, take out print ads and Scene Magazine or anything like that. Stuff like that is very, very expensive. So anything that we can do or, any help we can get, we definitely appreciate it because it's, we've been doing it for 10 years and there's still so much ground that we have not been able to cover. So I definitely appreciate you guys, helping us get the word out.
Now, Steve,
Yes,
all our
Glenn.
interviews on the show
All our
are
interviews.
sponsored by.
They're sponsored by Weber Grill. John, you a fan of Weber Grills? You like to grill outside?
I would do a little bit of grilling here and there using Weber grills.
Yeah. Well, then what you should do is download the free Weber Grill app because you got mouth-watering recipes there and guides on tips and techniques for using your grill, and it's information to be delivered to your device weekly and are guaranteed to keep the fire burning. If you go to Weber.com for more information.
That's exactly what I need is an app that could teach me how to cook because I'm more of like
Does it right here.
I'm like a microwave, some frozen chicken nuggets kind of guy, bachelor living in a one-bedroom apartment. So
I have the electric press-down Weber Grill action.
that sounds like something I could probably operate. So I'm gonna have to get more information on this after we go off the air.
Tricky to clean.
Cleaning is not my strong suit, but I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could figure it. I'm sure they explain how to clean it in the app.
Now, we wanted you to come on to talk wrestling with us for our show today. Not only because we love talking wrestling with you. We can talk for hours and hours. This could be a 10-part podcast. But you have a great event coming up to honor one of Cleveland's legends in the wrestling business. Tell us about that and tell us, the 2-day event and what's going to transpire, who's going to be here.
Yeah, we've been doing this event. I think this is the third or fourth year now. It's the JT Lightning Invitational Tournament. It's to honor longtime Cleveland area promoter JT Lightning, who started promoting independent wrestling events in the Cleveland area in 1993. He passed away a few years ago due to a long battle with cancer. He was, in his early 40s, so he went very, very, very young. And one of the last things that he had kind of asked of us before he passed away was he had sent myself and Chris Bryan, who I run the events with, he sent us both text messages and he said, "Please don't let anybody ever forget me." And we really didn't know what that meant or what we could do. And then, we just came up with this tournament. And one of the things that JT would do was he would book some of the most random cards you have ever seen in your life. So that's kind of what the J-Lit, as we call it for short, has evolved into. We try to put together the most unique lineups, even outside of the normal AIW lineups that we possibly can. We have legends like Doug Gilbert coming in this weekend, who is known for, as we watched before we went on the air, being very controversial in the Memphis wrestling scene. Too Cold Scorpio, who we had a few months ago, and I know you guys had interviewed, who just did absolutely amazing for us.
We love Too Cold Scorpio.
Oh, yeah, it was a great interview.
And the thing that's crazy about Too Cold Scorpio is he is 49 years old. Before that AIW event, he had pulled me aside and said that he had not wrestled in probably close to 6 months.
Wow.
And he went out there and killed it. Like, he wrestled like he was 23 years old. So we had one spot left for the J-Lit, and after that performance, I booked him as soon as he came back through the curtain. I was like, this last spot is yours. We got ECW/WWE legends like Little Guido coming in for the first time, who has always been a very underrated talent. And never really got his just due as to showcase everything that he could possibly do. We have guys like Nick Gage, who I'm sure you guys aren't too familiar with, but Nick Gage is an independent wrestler that just served 5 years in prison, just got released, is looking to kind of redeem himself for his past mistakes and his past life, and he's kind of he got released from prison, and he's kind of on a mission to prove that he has changed. And someone had reached out to us, so we're gonna give him that platform to kind of showcase that he's back, he's serious, and he's cleaned up his life after paying his debt to society. Just a whole bunch of who's in professional wrestling. DJZ from TNA, Cedric Alexander will be making his debut from Ring of Honor, as well as a lot of our regulars like Raymond Rowe, Alex Daniels. Saturday we'll be bringing in Samoa Joe to make his AIW debut for the first time against Cleveland area icon Johnny Gargano, which they will be wrestling each other for the very first time ever.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of rumors about where Samoa Joe could possibly be going. So for all we know, this could be probably the last time you see Samoa Joe in the Cleveland area for quite some time.
But he will be here.
He will be here Saturday. He lands very early in the morning. So Samoa Joe, no matter what happens, will be in Cleveland, Ohio this Saturday. And we'll be doing a special meet and greet with him for our VIP ticket holders. So yeah, it's we're doing 3 shows in 2 days, so it's going to be a crazy weekend. We also Saturday at 3:00 we'll be promoting a all-female wrestling
The
event,
ladies.
as a part of our Girls Night Out series, which it's all the performers on the event are female, so it's one of the more unique things that we do a few times a year. So I think if you haven't checked out a local independent wrestling show, this would probably be a good jumping off point for you. Will be this Friday and Saturday.
AIWrestling.com is a website. You can purchase tickets on there. You can also purchase tickets at the door, correct? If you walk
Correct.
up,
Yes.
if they're not sold out.
Yes, as of right now, we still have general admission tickets available only.
VIP gone.
The front row sold out in about 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So right now, you can order online, shop.aiwrestling.com, or you can take your chances at the door. But I would guess that we will probably find a way to try to fit every single person we can in that building.
JT Lightning, about 6 years ago, I was starting out with my own blog, and Butterbean was in town. This is for Cleveland All Pro
Yes.
Wrestling. Butterbean was in town. They had the Body Slam Challenge for Butterbean. Anybody can go in the ring. I think it was more for wrestlers. It wasn't for the public, but wrestling. And I emailed him like, hey, I do my own blog, my own show. Like, I want to videotape me trying to body slam Butterbean. He's like, yeah, sure, come on out. You can do it. What you need to do. So I went and I met JT, and this is my first indie show, and there's Butterbean, and I went in the ring and tried to body slam him. Could not get him even on his toes. The guy is a beast, and he's sweaty because I think he just had a match or something, and that was very unique, and that was my first introduction to with meeting JT Lightning and being there and kind of taking him in. I got there so early, so that was my first taste of indie wrestling here in Cleveland. That was down in Massillon too, yeah.
And that that's what I was talking about. JT would put together these unique, crazy cards.
Yeah.
And, having Butterbean randomly show up is just one example of a million of things that he did. JT did his own thing. He did not answer to anybody, and he did what he wanted. And I think that's why he was so successful for such a long time.
And he has, Johnny Gargano was trained under him. A lot of guys around here locally. I mean, if you're from Cleveland and you're professional wrestling, more than not, you are tied to JT Lightning for helping get where you're at.
Yes, and he helped AIW. JT Lightning was in the very first match AIW ever held. He rented us his ring. He helped us get the promotion off the ground when he didn't have to. He was running events in the Cleveland area in the same city for a long time, and he did not have to help us, and he did. And we're forever grateful for that. And he trained Johnny Gargano, Josh Prohibition, Matt Cross, so many others. And if he didn't train you, like you said, your path did cross with JT at some point. If you're involved in the Cleveland wrestling scene, a lot of people refer to him as the godfather of Cleveland professional wrestling. And that's a very, very good name for him because he touched so many people that were are involved in this scene and helped make it what it is today. If he didn't start promoting events in 1993, I don't know that you would have ever heard of any wrestling. There would be no AIW. There'd be no Johnny Gargano probably. There'd be no Josh Prohibition. There'd be a lot of these guys. So this is our a thing that's a lot of us Cleveland guys that knew JT. It's a very special weekend for us. So we take it very seriously.
It's a 2-day. I mean, the fact that the Invitational is a 2-day show is so unique. But I mean, you pack the house for each of them. I went last year, and again, like you said, you stick to the uniqueness. I think last year, and our ending show for 2014, we discussed what our favorite moments in wrestling were from 2014, and I still said mine was being at the Invitational and seeing Buff Bagwell.
Yeah,
and everybody singing American Males with him.
And then he did a Canadian Destroyer.
He did the Canadian Destroyer.
And Buff Bagwell had no idea what a Canadian Destroyer was, but he did it.
Yeah. That was and like I said, Samoa Joe. Like there's some of the speculation about where he's going to be, if he's going to wrestle on Wednesday for NXT, but he will be here in Cleveland. So go to AIWrestling.com for tickets for this weekend, and also you have your quote unquote WrestleMania coming in July. You have a great lineup, kind of main event already set. Absolution. That's going to be coming up as well. So I don't even want to give too much away, but it's going to be a stacked card as well.
Yeah, we're still trying to finalize some things. Like after we're done recording here today, actually, I'm going to a meeting to try to finalize a few things. But set as of right now, it will be Johnny Gargano, Alex Daniels, Josh Prohibition, and the Young Bucks against the Dudes on TV, consisting of Raymond Rowe, Ethan Carter III, EC3, DJ Z, Zima Ion, Matt Cross, and a fifth member of their team to be named later, which they have still not let me know who the fifth man will be. I'm hoping to get some confirmation from them sometime soon. And also the main event is already set for the Absolute title. It will be Josh Alexander versus Ricky Shane Page. And, as the weekend goes on this weekend, there'll be a lot of things that are going to lead to Absolution on July 10th, which, I can't really reveal here on this.
Sure.
We get
Fair
you.
enough.
We
On
got
this
you.
podcast, even though wrestling is real, I'm just saying that there could be some things that happen throughout the weekend that could set the rest of that July 10th card up.
Very interesting. So look forward to that. AIWrestling.com is the website. You guys can buy merch as well, DVD sales. You have Blu-ray too.
Yes.
You got Blu-ray, and you have your own streaming services. You get your own AIW network.
I know it's that's been such a huge undertaking for us. The AIWarchives.com. Actually, this weekend coming up is our 10-year anniversary. AIW started on Memorial Day weekend in 2005. So that I just actually realized that today, that it's going to be our 10-year anniversary coming up. But AIW Archives has been a project that we've been working on for a few months. We have all this history, and we've had all these guys come through AIW over the last 10 years that, people might not necessarily want to pay a full price to get a DVD of Dean Ambrose wrestling at the Avenue Tap House back in 2008 or 9. But, we're going to try to take all this history we have and put it, put it up on this service, AIWarchives.com, that, it works on, all Apple devices and Android devices and, basically all your mobile devices, and, try to develop this into our own little niche network type of thing, and just, let people know our history, and that, also on that service we have a lot of the Cleveland All-Pro footage from when JT Lightning was promoting stuff with CM Punk, Sabu, all kinds of just random stuff that, because I'm a big, I guess buff for the history of Cleveland wrestling. So, for me, it's something that I've kind of headed up this project to try to, put it all together, because there's so much stuff that has happened, like your listeners, even you guys yourselves, don't know, a lot of these guys have, come through the Cleveland area on a consistent basis. So, it's something that we're going to continue to grow. There's only 90 hours on it right now. We still have.
Oh, that's not a lot, John.
We still have over 100 events that we have to add to that.
Jeez.
So, it's definitely going to be a work in progress, but we're going to try to add new titles every single month and, just keep growing it.
Speaking of Dean Ambrose, and former AIW alum, he has inserted himself into a pretty solid storyline in WWE recently. And one of those, of course, coming out of Payback against former AIW alum, one's called Tyler Black, but Seth Rollins, he was part of the Fatal 4-Way this past weekend, which was huge. I know Glenn and I, that was our favorite moment. We got to see a little bit of a Shield reunion.
I loved the way they booked that. It was terrific. They teased it, and you had Seth Rollins put his hand out, and you had Reigns, and you had Ambrose laughing, and for a second there, you're like, "What? Is this going to happen?" And then obviously bad blood spilled out. And,
right.
But I thought it was.
But they did the triple power bomb with Randy Orton through a table.
It's probably the best moment
of that whole show.
Well, of 2015 so far in WWE, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Other than Rollins winning the title at WrestleMania. I mean, it's WrestleMania. It's going to be the biggest. But out of that, for Raws, for other pay-per-views, that was probably the holy shit moment of 2015 so far.
And now Raw has ended with the tease of Ambrose getting a title shot.
I think he got it. I think he got it.
Do you think they really
I think
got it?
Cole said, he got his title shot, but he's still going after Rollins. So
how fun is that, John? Like, did you ever sit there watching an AIW show and you saw these guys come in at various points? But, I mean, I don't know that, would you have sat there and been like, oh, yeah, this would be a dream match of mine. If I put two different guys together on WWE for a championship match that rolled through AIW, I'd pick those two.
It's kind of crazy because I think one of our biggest regrets is not booking Dean Ambrose more. We only booked him 2 times, and one of those times was at this just random show. I think it was like on a Thursday night at what is now the Avenue Tap House in Lakewood, right up the street from here. But it's just to me, it's so crazy because as AIW started, like almost nobody from the independents would make it in WWE up until recent memory. It was like if you knew somebody that got signed, it was like wow. And now it's just all these guys are not only signed that have come through AIW or Cleveland All Pro or any of these these independent companies, but they are main eventing NXT, main eventing WrestleMania. Like it's so crazy the transition that has happened to WWE since I would guess the talent regime, talent relations regime changes, but it's honestly amazing. I think Rollins and Ambrose is probably, that's probably a safe bet to put at the top, top of the card in WWE. They had amazing matches in FCW. They always delivered, the couple pay-per-views that they wrestled each other last year. So I think it's, it only makes sense to have those guys on the top of the card, especially going to the summer when it seems like, WWE kind of slows things down a little bit, and it's almost like they get boring on purpose.
There's like a long build to SummerSlam.
Right. Because, I could say this being a wrestling promoter, just doing anything entertainment related in the summertime is hard because people want to be outside, people want to be at bars, people want to, go do all these. There's so much more to do in the summertime. So it's kind of hard to, get people to sit in their house on a Monday night. And watch, or even, DVR it and watch it. There's stuff to do 7 days a week in the summertime. And I think that's why in the past WWE has almost gotten boring, and just almost lazy. But I think maybe putting Rollins and Ambrose on top could be, them trying to, change that and keep people interested.
Yeah, it's revisiting a storyline that I think a lot of people felt like we didn't get a closing to.
Right, there was really no resolution to the, they did, the Hell in the Cell match and a few other things, and then Ambrose had to go film that movie or whatever, and it just kind of it was like start stop. So I think it makes perfect sense for them to revisit that. And, they've always delivered, at almost any role that they've been given in the last, few years. So I think it makes perfect sense from, a storyline standpoint, a booking standpoint, if you will, to have those guys on top of the card and to try to, get people to keep watching the show and keep watching the pay-per-views.
Now, there was a man that made his Raw debut,
and that was good. I almost cut you off. I think the greatest moment of 2015, the biggest holy shit moment, was last night on Raw when my boy, my good friend, name drop, I don't care, Kevin Owens,
a man that has slept on your couch.
He has slept on my couch. He sent flowers to my mother's funeral a couple weeks ago. It was I think that was the biggest holy shit moment that it being involved in wrestling, you kind of get jaded. It's almost like that fandom gets sucked out of you because you're so just tuned into everything.
Right.
And I didn't even watch Raw last night, and I was on Twitter, and I saw that Kevin Owens was in the ring with John Cena, and I literally jumped off my couch and I looked at my girlfriend. We were watching Law and Order SVU on Netflix.
Just say you were watching The Bachelorette, John.
No,
I don't. Come on.
I don't have any cable or regular television devices. Strictly Netflix for this guy. I'm one of those cord cutters that everyone talks about. But I was like, holy shit, Kevin is wrestling John Cena on Raw. I didn't even know what happened. And then later, WWE posted the clip on YouTube, and I actually watched it at work today, and I was just like, this is insane. And then I saw that they're gonna wrestle the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's just to me, stuff like that, it's just like, holy shit, because not only because it's a guy that I'm friends with and I've booked before and I've worked with, but it's like, look at Kevin Owens. He is not a guy that is supposed to be on Raw.
He looks like the guy that has always loved watching wrestling.
Right, and he has not changed who he was or what he was on the independents, which is amazing to me because Kevin Steen was one of the only guys that we have booked in AIW that ever moved the meter. Like when we booked Steen, ticket sales went way up.
Yeah.
There's only a few guys that do that for us at this point. It's guys like Colt Cabana, Kevin Steen, that they move the meter way up. And it just, there's something about that guy that I think people just connect with. And I don't think it's because he just looks like he doesn't look like the Batista body. I think it's just something that he gives off.
He does. We were talking about like there's not really heels or faces anymore, but people want to enjoy somebody that gets into that heel persona and really kind of sticks to it. And I think Kevin does an amazing job of just being an asshole.
Yeah, and it's just he's so witty.
Oh yeah.
And the thing that's crazy is the guy taught himself how to speak English by listening to Jim Ross commentate. He's from French Canada.
Yeah.
He's French Canadian. He can't, he didn't speak English. He grew up, French is his first language, and he learned how to speak English by watching Jim Ross, which is just so crazy that he's, that English is his second language, and he's so witty and so on top of everything.
Yeah.
And just so with it. But, like we were talking before we went on the air, there's like this new kayfabe to where like people, like you can't be like a true like spit on a fan heel anymore. You have to play a heel within the realm of pro wrestling. Like, people are in on it at this point, in 2015. And I think Kevin does a good job of playing that part to where people really enjoy watching him be a heel. But then, you'll go follow him on Twitter and he is just ripping on everybody. Which is just such a interesting dynamic in 2015. But I think, I think Kevin is a guy that is just naturally going to excel, and I don't think the WWE machine necessarily wants him to excel. I think it's just gonna happen organically because there's just something about that guy.
Well, it's almost like right now they want him to excel, but they want to keep it bottled to NXT that because NXT is exploding right now, and a huge part of that explosion is Kevin, and I think that they want to keep it there so that it can continue to explode that. Right,
and there's been so many guys that they've started and stopped in recent memory. Look at Zack Ryder. That guy was ready for the world, and they wanted to stop. They stopped him, and they did. But I think there's guys that I make this comparison, but I don't think Stone Cold Steve Austin was ever supposed to be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's exactly who I think of when, when you try to compare.
Kevin is a guy that I think is just organically going to explode because he has something totally different about him that I can't even necessarily pinpoint, and I don't think anybody can really pinpoint. But there's just something about him that you want to look at that guy. It's like it's the same thing with like Corey Graves, for example. You don't know what it is about that guy, but you look at him and you're like, that guy's famous. Like you could see that guy at a bar and be like, there's that, it's just the natural, I guess, aura or whatever you want to call it that these guys give off.
Well, it's like, Daniel Bryan, I guess, was kind of in that realm too.
Right.
When he came in. And he, in a completely different way. Here's this little tiny guy, and he was going to explode. You couldn't do anything about him either.
Right, and I don't think Daniel Bryan was ever supposed to main event of WrestleMania and win and close out that WrestleMania. But, that's the thing now with social media and, how just in touch everybody is. People, wrestling fans finally can make a change at this point, it's not 10 years ago. This is the age of information. Now WWE almost gauges their success based on how many things they can get trending, which is now with fans speaking their mind and giving their feedback. And these crowds that have developed in recent time at WWE events, like every year the night after WrestleMania and things like that.
Oh,
and, you get in these certain towns and they're gonna. At this point, it's almost like the fans are dictating WWE, and not only WWE, but wrestling as a whole. There's things that I do in AIW that I don't necessarily they're not necessarily my cup of tea or what I would want to do, but fans sometimes latch onto these things,
Right.
And they make them almost come get a life of their own, and you have to go with it, because if you don't go with it, you're gonna if you lose that support, it's hard to get it's easier to lose support than gain support. So you have to roll with it, especially now with WWE. They're a $1 billion corporation, but you always hear about these bad these bad fiscal reports and things
Sure.
like that. So it's almost like the fans are running the show at this point. Obviously, they're not running every aspect of it, but there's a lot of people, guys like Dolph Ziggler, things like that. I don't think that they're supposed to, be getting the fan appreciation that they do.
And they're still holding him back. I mean, he's
Right.
he's
Yeah.
being held down tremendous. I mean,
And
he's
I
not
mean,
getting
he's-
any kind of push.
The thing that's amazing about Dolph Ziggler is he never worked the independents. He's a guy that got signed right out of college, for being a good amateur athlete, and he has figured out how to wrestle that style. He's developed his own style within the WWE that has just made him stand out. And he's another one of those guys that fans cannot get enough of, and I think that's probably the primary reason why, whether he's losing or not, he is always featured on television.
And one thing with him is that if you put Ziggler in the main event, obviously it's going to culminate and it's going to climax, but they want guys that they push in the main event to climax for more than just one pay-per-view.
Right.
And that sounds so bad, but it's true.
That's all I'm usually good for, is one pay-per-view too.
They want guys to really, take in the crowd. Like, the crowd wants him to do well, and they finally get it, and then it dies off. They I don't think they think Ziggler to be one of those guys to where he can be a guy like Danny Ambrose, who is getting a positive reaction for 6-7 months. I think it's more of he's one of the guys that has been down, and they keep pushing him down, and they want to see him be pushed. And then when he does get that push, it's like, oh, he's there. Okay, now we move on to someone else.
Did you climax during this past weekend's pay-per-view, Glenn?
For Lana, I mean, definitely.
You guys follow WWE porn on Twitter? It's great. At
No, I
WWE
don't, no.
porn. Oh, you gotta follow that one. I make sure not to follow too many people, but that is an account that I follow.
It's a must follow.
Must follow.
I follow WWE Moms or something. Moms Against WWE. It's like a parody account, but they say, "How dare he say that? How dare!" Like that's pretty funny.
Lana's great though. Love Lana.
A lot of things happened on Payback and Raw, and obviously we hit on the possible title match, but Elimination Chamber match coming back in 2 weeks. It looks like it's going to be its own pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Very unique. IC title going to be decided. Tag teams, titles, inside. Two guys
in a pod at one time.
New Day possibly going to have 3 guys because of the Freebird rule. But a very unique event. I love the Chamber match before WrestleMania leading in. But I kind of disliked it too because you kind of knew what was going to happen.
It was almost like a throwaway pay-per-view.
Yeah, it wasn't unique.
And but before we go on to this, can we talk about how amazing that New Day and Tyson Kidd Cesaro 2 out of 3
at
Falls
Payback.
match was?
Oh,
It was
great.
fantastic.
That was amazing.
I got nervous at first because that first pin was kind of quick,
right.
and I was like, oh no, then this will go.
And that's a lot of people don't know a lot about Cesaro's independent wrestling career, but
Yeah.
he wrestled a lot in the Chikara promotion, and Chikara's rule for their tag belts is every time there's a tag team championship decided, it has to be a 2 out of 3 falls tag team match. So
Oh, wow.
he has quite a bit of experience in doing these tag team 2 out of 3 falls matches, which I didn't even know when I was watching Payback that it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, because like I said, I'm very bad with watching Raw because I've not had cable in about 5 years because I run an independent wrestling promotion and I have to save all my dollars that I can just in case. But when I watched that, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be amazing, and it even exceeded my expectations. But going back to the I just want to talk about that. Going back to the Chamber, I think this is what it needed to be for it to to be a meaningful pay-per-view again. It couldn't be that the go-home show going into Mania anymore,
Right.
because you knew that they're not going to jeopardize their WrestleMania main event for the most
Right.
part.
Correct.
Right.
But now doing different things like deciding the tag titles in the Chamber and things like that, I think that that's the natural evolution of what the Elimination Chamber is, because like I said, you get 5 guys or whatever in there. You used to get maybe a guy that wouldn't normally main event in there to
Santino.
just or like an RVD or something
Yeah.
like that,
Right.
to shine a little bit and
Yeah,
kind of
Shelton Benjamin was in there at one
I
point.
think R-Truth made it apparent.
kind of give them that little bit of like this is what it's like in the main event, and then they're never seen in the main event ever again. I think this is probably a much better plan for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view.
Oh, I'm pumped about it. Don't look at me. I don't know what to say. I mean, but it's interesting because originally at the beginning of this year, or towards the end of last year, we were told the Elimination Chamber is going away. So do you see this bringing it back like this quickly
Oh yeah.
as a sign of, all right, maybe we were wrong about it completely going away, and like to John's point, maybe we just need to redirect it?
Well, I think this is more for keeping subscribers. It's in the last day
Yeah.
of the month, free month of
That's
May.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of, hey, it's a very unique, structure for people who haven't seen it yet, new fans.
And they learned their lessons with King of the Ring being done.
There's
within,
no
like,
build up.
just a
yeah.
quick 2 days. Yeah.
And I think, going back to what you're saying, I think, this is all based on those reports that came out that the new specials are what everybody's watching on the WWE Network, NXT, the 24 specials, things like that, are what people are watching on the network. So I think this is, just them trying to keep that rolling and seeing, is this going to keep, these people that are signed up for the free month on, for the $9.99 next month.
Not to cut us off in this great conversation, but I don't know if it's outside or just in my head, but I swear I just heard sirens going by. And whenever I hear sirens, Glenn, you know what that means.
It's time to call.
It's time to call Scott Steiner.
We got to call him
Big
now.
Papa Pump.
Now, every week we call Scott Steiner to listen to the show, and we just want to talk to him. So we call him every week during the show. See if he hasn't answered yet, hasn't called back during the show.
Yes,
we kind of
randomly came about this phone number. Can't tell you where from.
So we're gonna give Mr. Steiner. You've dealt with Steiner before, Mr. Thorne.
Very, 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 very briefly. I've dealt with Big Papa Pump, but he is on my all-time bucket list guys that I would like in an AIW ring.
Did you maybe not have enough freaks for his peaks for him to come to AIW? Is that what happened?
I do not have enough dollar signs in my pocket for him to come to AIW.
Pecs.
So it's not about the freaks.
It's ringing. You probably won't answer.
No.
It's gonna be one of those shows that we do that we're just like, there it is.
There's the
If
voicemail
he
again.
answers, you guys got to just have an impromptu interview with him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we would. It's a given. Okay, so no Scott Steiner this
Scott,
week.
this is your brother Rick.
Maybe he'll call back.
You guys should go to the Global Force show that's happening July 11th.
Oh,
and,
we're planning that. Yeah.
and try to just try to get an interview with him and be like, hey, bro, why aren't you answering our phone calls? We've been trying to get you to promote
We
this
should
Global
call-
Force wrestling event
Well, we should.
that's happening, and you're not returning our calls.
We should call him while we're there, just so we could see him look at his phone.
While
Who
we're
is
interviewing him.
Who's this?
I'll see if I can get you guys some media credentials, so it
Yeah.
all adds up.
Yeah, we'll definitely be there.
Do you think that Global Force is going to be a success? While you've brought that up,
I don't know. I could go either way on it. I know that there is a lot of smart people involved behind the scenes.
yeah, it seems like he's grabbing everybody to help left and right now.
There's a lot of people that it has not leaked out people that are helping him, and they probably want to keep it that way. That I've been in contact with that I think are really trying to at least make the house shows, if anything else, worth going to.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much about what's going on with the television or anything like that, but I think at least from a live event standpoint, I think people are going to get a unique experience. Almost like in NXT in the fact that they're going to make them like independent super shows with the people that are available. I know that they're talking to people that are under Ring of Honor contract and under all these other contracts, and just trying to get them under one roof, at least for the house shows, and definitely not the television because they have other obligations.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the house shows you're going to see a lot of unique things that you wouldn't necessarily see at another independent event or even an NXT show. But with that being said, it's pro wrestling, and this whole thing could fall apart.
That's true.
Like so many other of these startup companies have, in the last 10, 15 years. So only time will tell. But Jeff Jarrett is a guy that seems that he will not go away. The guy has, was basically blackballed by Vince McMahon the night he bought WCW.
Yeah.
And he has found a way to survive since that day. So he's obviously a man that has connections and knows how to keep things moving. He founded TNA, so he probably has a few tricks up his sleeve. If it is good, I think it's going to be great for pro wrestling.
But the thing is, it's WWE has its sponsors and they're PG now, but the ratings are not as high, not even close, as what they were back in the 90s. When there was competition between two companies, and even ECW was getting great ratings too. Now with WBE and you're barely pushing 3, do you think that because of the big boys not doing too well, that having competition like Global Force or TNA, it's going to be hard for a TV channel to back Global Force or even TNA to where they get enough exposure to be actually reliable competition for WWE?
I don't even look at TNA or Global Force as competition. I mean, I think things like that are just where we're at in society now. Back in the 90s, you had 30 cable channels.
Yeah.
Now you got a few hundred. I think the TV medium is dying. So many people, like me are, just getting rid of cable in this kind of younger generation. So I don't know if television is the answer to even get, to be a success at this day and age. Like look at Lucha Underground. That's, critically people love it, but they don't even know if they're going to have another season because they've spent so much money.
Yeah.
And the ratings did not come out to be what they thought that they would be. So I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think that even Global Force considers themselves any sort of competition for Vince McMahon and WWE. I just think that they're going to try to, they're going to have to figure out a way to, be in people's faces, and I don't necessarily know what that is. But, I don't think you're ever going to see those ratings that you saw in the Attitude Era, 90s, WCW. I just think it's, for that time, you have to think back when you're a wrestling fan, if you wanted to watch both shows, you had to set a VCR to hopefully tape the Nitro replay that played at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then wake up for school the next day and hope that you have a blank VHS tape with Nitro on it. You know what I mean? Even flipping back and forth and stuff like that. You don't have to do stuff like that anymore. I'm going to DVR this show. I'm going to watch this. I think society and technology and where we're just at in this day and age, I don't think television is what it was.
Could an answer be, and I've only just thought of this now, and I'm sure somebody much smarter than I has, and maybe that's why it's been shot down, but maybe they haven't. There hasn't really been a Netflix wrestling promotion yet.
Yeah, I think, I honestly, I think that's the answer. If, if a wrestling promotion can get picked up by one of these very powerful streaming services, such as Netflix.
WWE obviously has their deal with Hulu, but Hulu doesn't have a lot of original programming, which is what we see on a Netflix.
And I think, I think that's where things are moving, and that's, I've thought about that myself. Obviously, a company like Netflix is not going to invest in a company like AIW. We just don't have the production values that they would even require. But for some of these big money companies, I think that's probably where things are going. The first company that can land a deal on like a Netflix or a Hulu or even like a Crackle or any of these other premium streaming services that are developing. There's a million of them coming out. and a lot of these big companies such as Disney and things like that are investing in these streaming services and YouTube networks and stuff. I think that's where it's going to go, but I just don't think that any of them have thought to to kind of court a wrestling program, and I don't think
It's kind of mind-boggling the other way around. Or
Right.
maybe, to your point, they just don't
But
have
I
the
mean,
money
you-
for production
you know,
value yet.
and I think it's also a generational thing. Somebody that was around during the Attitude Era, and these people that are in these higher up positions in these companies, they're thinking TV, they're thinking TV, they're thinking
Yeah.
TV. This technology is something that's maybe mid 30s you're aware of it, but I know, for example, if I at my real life job, explaining Netflix to a lady I work with is like explaining rocket science. They cannot grasp it. And,
Yeah.
so I think that's probably the same thing with maybe some of these people that are running these companies. I could be wrong, but I just think there's a generational gap, and I think eventually it will close, and you'll see somebody with a deal on one of these systems, and I think once you see somebody with a deal on one of these these forms of distribution, then you're going to see a real player in the pro wrestling game.
And I think at that point you have the opportunity to, I guess, be more adult-oriented, like
Right.
you were in Attitude Era and Monday Night War kind of time frame, because you don't have that on Netflix. You don't have the,
Right. There's
to worry
no
about.
It's
You can
almost like
cater to those-
podcasting.
yeah, you can cater to those
you guys,
people then.
podcasts aren't regulated. You guys do whatever you want, talk about whatever you want. You don't have to worry about the FAA
Yeah,
or
talk about
any of that.
hookers all day long.
Right. Talk
what
about
we
drug
do.
dealers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about my white van, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's same thing. You know what I mean? That's just where I think everything everything entertainment based is going. You know what I mean? You've seen podcasts are killing radio. And I
Yeah.
think streaming services are going to kill cable television.
Will we ever see Raw broadcast only on the WWE Network?
I would say
future, maybe?
I would say not anytime, probably in the next few years, but I would say it's definitely a possibility. Based on everything's based on the reports that you read. But I know that they thought they were going to get a big television rights deal, and they did not get it. And I think as more people, if I'm a guy that's always like looking at these technologies and things like that. If you look, cable subscriptions go down drastically every single quarter, and I think as they continue to go down, WWE's money is going to continue to go down, and it'll probably only make sense for them to just go exclusively on their own network.
Network has I think 1.6 or 7 million subscribers. I think not right now, but I think it's a total combined of everybody who signed up and has signed off. Or I guess there's 30% of subscribers right now have not watched 1 hour of block. They just pay for it and they haven't watched 1 hour, which is I think is mind-boggling. But if Raw gets around 4 million people watching, a pay-per-view on network probably gets maybe a little less than 1 million, I would think. If they would go to Raw on network only, they could probably go back to a more adult version, and I think they would spike. You pay $10 a month to watch Raw, it would go through the roof. People subscribing and
agree.
paying for that.
I mean, look at what Howard Stern going to Sirius XM did.
sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean
That was
for them. I think it's the same thing. I think, but Vince McMahon is almost in his 70s, maybe in his 70s. All he knows is television.
Yeah.
So I think I think once Triple H or Stephanie or whoever takes over the reins fully, I think you're going to see these changes. Because from a company standpoint, we're getting real deep on this podcast today. But,
Yeah.
this
I like
is
it.
good though.
but from a company standpoint, are you going to get a couple $100 million and try to sell advertising and try to do this and try to do that and have to deal? It's like distribution deals with comedy and things like that now. Like the big thing now is comedians don't need a distribution deal to release a comedy album. They could just do it themselves online on a
Right.
website. That's where everything is going. And I think, somebody like Triple H or somebody's going to wake up and go, what are we dealing with distribution? And, we have to cater to this sponsor or that sponsor when they could just do it themselves and charge people a premium price. I think you're going to see WWE make so much more money that way, and they could sell their own sponsorships and keep 100% of everything. No giving a cut to USA or things like that.
Or having USA dictate who's on the show.
Right.
I know for a fact that USA has gone and said, well, why don't you put Vince on the show, or why don't you put feature more Stephanie or Triple H? They like,
Right.
well, why, 'cause, well, we want the people that know these guys have been around for 20 years. They want them on the TV. And I think NXT is like the guinea pig. NXT is only on WWE Network. It's live once every
And
month.
you can watch it on
Quarterly,
Hulu
I
as well.
think, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm saying people know from watching the WWE Network, and when you have Owens comes out, when you have the Lucha Dragons come out, people know who they are. They're not on TV. People already know who they are. I think NXT is a guinea pig to where they can become successful just on the network. Maybe Raw can have the same kind of success right off the bat if they ever move to $10 a month on the network.
And I agree. And like I said, we're not going to see that change in the next 3 years.
Right, yeah.
But 5 years, I think 5 years cable television, it's going to be like you're going to have, grandmothers and, that's basically it, because it's all about our generation and things like that, like I don't have a house phone. I don't think I'll ever have a house phone, like we're cell phones now, we're podcasts, we're Netflix. I just think that's where things are going to go. And as we get older, that's going to become the norm. And these things like cable and all this other in terrestrial radio, it's all going to go away.
It's interesting, right? So as we sit here and we say this and like, oh, they should totally go to the network, but then you bring up like a Howard Stern and what that does for satellite radio, and we talk about a Netflix, and the biggest two differences in those in the WWE network are that they offer a variety of programming outside of one business or company. Yes, Howard Stern going to satellite radio made satellite radio just boom. But you can also go on there for sports. You can go on there for rock and hip hop and this and this and that. Just like it does, it competes with these regular things. So in what we're saying in theory is that WWE still maintains its own network for $10 a month, but then you have a consumer who goes out there and it's like, well, I'm paying X amount for this, X amount for this, X amount for this, and all of a sudden it's adding up and it's more than cable. So at some point, if you're smart and you're WWE, yeah, I guess maybe you have the network for your original programming, but you should still probably team up with a Netflix or somebody because you know what I mean? Like if you just have too many organizations who now all of a sudden have their own network, well, now all you have is a whole bunch of networks that you're paying separately for,
And
which
plus,
then takes us back.
Yeah.
Brings us all the way back full circle to signing up for cable again.
And Raw, you can't even watch on the network.
right
You
now.
have to wait 3 months to watch last night's Raw, which that's part of the USA Network. But if they had it on Raw, you can instantly watch it, and I think that we get more streaming. But people still have AOL makes millions of dollars on people who still have
the
dial-up.
people just don't know how to get rid of dial-up.
Yeah.
Like, I think I read something the other day that 2.2 million people still use dial-up internet.
And they're making what, $20 a month? That's making $40 million a month.
And it's just people that don't know any better. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's like telling the lady at work, how to use Netflix or even how to use a Redbox machine. You know what I mean? People are scared of change in technology. But going back to what you said, you have to also remember that WWE owns so many video libraries they do not utilize. To where if they put that stuff up, it would be so worth the $9.99. Plus, you see them kind of dabbling in, trying to develop these original programs that do not look very good, but at least they're investing a little bit of money in, kind of testing the waters, But like I said, it's that generational thing. Jerry Springer was cool when cable television was cool. You know what I mean?
Do you love how Jerry Springer Too Hot for TV is everything that happened on TV in the Attitude Era?
Yeah.
I watched Jerry Springer Too Hot for TV one time, and it made me very embarrassed to have ever enjoyed the Attitude Era. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. The Swerve, though, I like the Swerve, the Punk show they're gonna start airing. I like to see that. That's unique. It's not like, oh, this is a recap show of what happened 20 years ago.
And that's the thing,
Yeah.
They're gonna keep develop. Obviously, they're putting money into these original programs. The guys that did Jackass and things like that. I'm sure they're not too cheap to produce a TV show.
Well, ultimately, you could bring a Total Divas to the network, I suppose.
Right, and I'm sure
Take that out of the
And it's the same thing is why kind of bringing it back to AIW is like why we're developing this AIW archives thing because right now it's good to, put up old footage, things like that, develop a small revenue stream to get started. But we want to have that system in place for the day that, maybe Smart Mark Video doesn't produce things for us anymore or, things change. We want to have something that's there for when this change goes full circle, we can just go, boom, here it is. This is the website. This is where you can get all of our stuff. So that's kind of my thought process, because I do feel things are going to go to that kind of content distribution sooner than later.
You're a full circle kind of guy, I feel like,
Yeah.
John. So as we're wrapping up the show and came all the way back to AIW, tell us one more time what's happening this weekend with the Lightning Invitational Tournament.
JT Lightning Invitational Tournament 2015, #JLit 2015 on Twitter. It will be a 2-night, 24-person singles tournament. It will feature men, women, pro wrestling legends, pro wrestling up-and-coming rookies. Pretty much, we're going to feature every kind of subgenre of pro wrestling. You're going to see a little bit of brawling, a little bit of high flying, a little bit of technical. We're trying to just make it, the most well-rounded show ever, because, not everybody likes every single type of wrestling. So we're just kind of trying to appeal to as many people as possible, and just kind of offer something that's just not one style. That's why we're also offering the all-women's event on Saturday. There'll also be women featured in the JLit tournament. Just all kinds of stuff. If you've never been to an independent wrestling event, I think coming Friday and Saturday would definitely help kind of ease you into what independent wrestling is. It's a very intimate, up close and personal type of experience. It's not like going to Monday Night Raw where you're sitting in the top of the queue or anything like that. You will be able to walk up and talk to all these wrestlers and engage in conversation with them and talk to them, and just it's an experience like a wrestling fan definitely I feel needs to have, because there's a whole different world out there besides WWE, and watching on your television, and being so far away from these people, and WWE has superstars. Well, independent wrestling is about wrestlers, and fans are the whole reason why independent wrestling exists. So
Yeah.
You can come and have these unique experiences with these guys. For example, you saw Buff Bagwell last year.
Mm-hmm.
Up until a few months ago, Kevin Owens was on AIW events.
Right.
Seth Rollins was on AIW events several years ago. So you never know which one of these guys is going to be the next, WWE WrestleMania main eventer. And you can come, you can meet them and have this unique experience with them. And, it sounds kind of cheesy, but you create that memory. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you could say, hey, there's so many people that come to AIW that could say, hey, I knew Kevin Owens before he was Kevin Owens.
Right.
I have this picture with him. I had this, shared this moment with him. Things like that. And I think that's what makes independent wrestling so great. It's truly a punk rock, just this weird, just underground, like just old like genre of entertainment. It's hard to explain, but it's like nothing else. And I think it's definitely something that especially if you're in the Cleveland area, you need to come out and experience at least once and kind of judge for yourself before you have any preconceived notions on what independent wrestling is. It's something like nothing else I can explain.
What has to happen, boss, for me to get in the ring and just knock Steve's head off in a match or a spot or something?
First, you got to get strong.
What has to happen for this to happen?
How many tickets you guys think you could sell? How many people listen to this podcast?
Thousands.
Thousands?
Yeah, depends on the week.
All right, let's get 50
They're
of
not all
them
in
there,
Cleveland.
and we'll see how many hot dogs they buy.
I get a hot dog every time.
And
I don't even care. Hey,
yeah, we'll go from there.
Can you get ballpark mustard?
I can talk to my guy.
All right. I keep getting
Bring your own.
always just ketchup lately. I noticed that, John.
I mean, like I
If I had
said,
one
independent
quibble
wrestling is a
about
do-it-yourself,
Yeah, bring it.
do-it-yourself punk rock type of thing. And
Bring it.
sometimes you only
some mustard.
sometimes you only got enough money in the budget for one condiment.
All right, fair enough.
One time, something's going to happen, Steve. One time. You don't know.
I'm
going
to talk to my guy at Monsoon Classic on Twitter. He's the head of the AIW concession team.
Oh, okay.
So if you want some mustard there, you're gonna have to tweet him personally, and he's gonna have to buy it with his own money.
Oh man, I don't want to put
And if
anybody out.
and if we have enough fans there, he will be reimbursed. And if not, he's gonna be out. He's gonna be out a couple
They're
bucks
gonna
on
love
your
that
mustard.
They're gonna love it.
Somehow we gotta get involved. Somehow, some way. Maybe in the future. John Thorne, AIW, AIWrestling.com. Big show this weekend. Make sure to check out the website. Stay in tuned. All over Instagram. You're all over Twitter, Facebook, everything. So you're all over there.
Follow me on Twitter. I'm really trying to up my local celebrity game. Trying to
John Thorne AIW.
at John Thorne AIW on Twitter. Trying to maybe score some free melt or something from Matt Fish. I know he's a big supporter of the show. Things like that. I'm just trying to get something for free somewhere in this town where someone's like, I know that guy.
You gotta bring Grado back. We're gonna set
Yeah,
up that
get
melt
Grado,
for
man.
Grado.
Trying to get like Mike Polk.
Mike Polk Jr.
Yeah,
He's a local celebrity.
Level celebrity.
He'll be joining us soon on this show.
Even though he doesn't like
Talk
wrestling.
about how he doesn't like
Yeah.
wrestling.
Yeah, well, you know what?
To
I don't
promote
like
charitable
I don't
event.
like how you're more famous than me, Mike Polk Jr.
It's because he's silly.
But he's Cleveland famous. He's not like.
I want to be
John
Cleveland
wants to-
famous. I don't want to be real famous. I just want to be like,
It's not that
Hey.
hard. It's not that. Just make a pro
It's-
Cleveland video
I-
and you'll be Cleveland
I
famous.
just want to be like, hey, that's that wrestling guy.
Well, we went to NXT and you sat in your own balcony. And every
on,
re-
man, look at
every
you.
every name in NXT came
I'm
out,
te-
and he stands up in the corner, and they're all pointing to John
Yeah.
Thorne up there. Hey, man.
I'm texting you. Hey, get me up there. And
Yeah.
I'm not getting any
hey,
response.
that's
I
wrestling.
get the. I get
That's
the red
wrestling
message,
though.
yeah.
That's like wrestling. That's like wrestling famous. I'm trying to be like no weight at melt famous. You know what I mean? Like get a free hot dog at Happy Dog famous.
I get some drinks
Simple
around
kind of
town.
things.
I'm that kind of famous.
girl that's like freshly 21.
Oh, I don't get that.
Wants, that kind of famous. You know what I mean?
I don't get that. Yeah,
We'll
you
help
know?
you out.
I don't want to
I'm
just.
a good wingman.
I don't want to
though.
just have to watch Netflix with my girlfriend on Monday nights anymore. I'm trying to get like groupies. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Cleveland celebrity famous. I bet Mike Polk Jr. gets a little bit going on.
Yeah, he's quite Cleveland famous.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Like I
That's
said,
It's a good friend. Good friend.
make a pro Cleveland video and you're set for life. That's all you got to do.
I make pro
Or-
Cleveland videos once a month. It's
Yeah.
called AIW.
All right, we're gonna have you on. We want to have you on a more regular basis. This is nice talk wrestling for an hour, just shooting
Yeah.
the shit.
I mean, if you guys got if I see my Twitter followers significantly go up, I might come back.
We can't promise anything, but
I might document what the studio looks like on my Instagram.
there you go.
I might get a documentary film crew down here.
All right, well,
Listen,
all right.
I might get you guys your own personal mustard at the show.
There you go.
But all our interviews are sponsored by.
They are sponsored. Well, as we're talking about food and eating,
Yeah.
and we want to be famous. What we need to do is get famous enough between us and you that we can actually go to Weber Grill restaurants and enjoy the flavors of charcoal grilling all year long at one of the 4 Midwest locations in Chicago or in Indianapolis. And, of course, visit WeberGrillRestaurant.com for addresses and directions and sign up for the new Grill Club where you can earn great loyalty awards unless you become famous enough like we're going to get John Thorne.
Yeah, can I get famous enough to get one of those grills? Or maybe like famous enough to like throw out the first pitch at a Lake Erie Crushers game or
Yeah,
something.
there
You
you
know
go.
what I mean? Like
Man, we haven't even done that.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
get that level. I just want to like walk around downtown and be
We
like,
are
hey.
bachelors. We are
I
available.
just want to be like,
bachelors.
hey,
Yeah. Glenn
have
and
a
I-
free drink at the Harbor Inn.
Glenn and
It's
I
on
will
us.
be at the Harbor Inn. Glenn and I will be doing a bachelor raffle in a month.
Well, I'm not gonna bid on you guys, but
you
I
can
might
buy a date with me.
bid on Dr. Dre,
I'm
who's
actually-
gonna be a guest on the show.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm actually hosting the bachelor raffle along with Q104's Carly McCord on June 25th at the Barley House in downtown Cleveland for Wags for Kids. It's a great charity. They pair dogs with autistic kids, and it's good.
See,
it's
that's
a
the
good
kind of
stuff.
famous I'm trying to get. Like, come to the Barley House and host something famous.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
Well,
You guys are doing it, man.
Glenn's gonna be raffled off
Yeah,
for a
raffle
date.
off. A date with me.
You guys got
We
the
can watch-
soundboard in here. You guys got these fancy microphones. All I got is a 1-bedroom apartment and a cat and some Netflix and a pro wrestling company.
You got a ring, dude. I'm jealous of you.
I
You
got
a
I
ring.
got 2 rings, brother.
You got 2
Let me
rings.
let me
I'm
correct
jealous.
let me correct you on that.
I'm
and
jealous.
I own a shady piece of commercial. Well, I don't own it. I
An
rent it.
outside show.
Did
you ever do an outside one?
Yeah.
We just extended this interview even though
Maybe.
we were
I
wrapping
mean-
up.
Who cares?
That's
Let's
fine.
go over.
for the right price for anybody out there that's
Like
looking
at
at.
what about the Crusher Stadium? That'd be sweet.
Let's get them on.
do
You
it.
guys got the connections.
or
Come on.
Jacob's Pavilion. There's got to be something.
We were in negotiation with Jacob's Pavilion for Absolution, but it didn't line up. We did an outdoor show at the around the corner right over there
Oh,
a couple
yeah.
years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow,
they
that-
they tore down all those little things outside.
Yeah.
Oh man, what about Lakewood Park?
Let's do it. I mean, you guys.
Let's do it on a boat. Let's do it on a boat.
Let's do it on the
Good
good time.
time.
Let's
Yeah,
do it on the good time.
Brawl for
See, that's the kind of famous I'm trying to get. Like,
Voinovich Park right there by the Rock Hall.
Yeah.
see, I got to use your guys' fame to kind of catapult
yeah.
me.
You should do a show outside of Raw.
Well, I think
Well,
there might
that
be
could be dangerous.
there might be a little city ordinances and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Why?
I mean, I saw DX take a
Do the casino. Do it at the casino.
I'm not exactly on the up and up with my taxes, man. trying to stay like Cleveland famous, not like we're coming for you, Vince McMahon famous.
Well, yeah,
like,
fair enough.
let's keep it to like, we'll do a show like not outside the queue. Let's do it at like,
Do the casino.
let's do it at like
The Roxino.
Yeah, the
In
Roxy.
Northfield.
Roxino. Yeah, that's a little outside of city limits.
Yeah.
Let's, I'm more of like a Harbor Inn. Let's do a show on the street next to the Harbor Inn,
Hey.
in between McCarthy's and the Harbor Inn, with Wally.
That'd be nice.
I got to use your guys' connections. This guy used to work for the Indians or do something for him. I read
me?
up on him. Yeah,
Me? No, I work for the Plain Dealer.
well, same thing. Whatever. I tell people that I was going to go. I'm going to interview with this guy that used to work for the Indians because
Oh,
it sounded
man.
sounded a lot.
Indians. Don't get it twisted. I
Hey.
work for the Indians.
Hey, I don't put it publicly. I just tell my real life friends so I can
All right.
justify devoting my life to wrestling.
Well, I wrote a book. You could tell them that.
Oh, and an author.
Yeah, you know,
An ex-Indians employee and an author.
I worked out this deal with Johnny now so I can finally get my Johnny Wrestling T-shirt. I'm going to trade him a book for the T-shirt.
Well, hopefully you autograph it. See, this is the kind of famous I need.
That's what he said. He said,
I got
I want an autograph.
authors. I got Cleveland Indians ex-employees.
Yeah.
I will take a bump. I'll take a legit bump. It will get you Cleveland famous.
I just want to be on the mic. Maybe I can help somebody out.
Oh.
On the
Then I'll
mic.
attack
Good.
you. You can
Yeah,
have
whatever.
someone attack me or something.
Hey, while we're all plugging things, next Wednesday, May 27th, if you are on the east side in Menor, Ohio, beautiful Menor, Ohio, drop by
shameless
Toast Place
plug. There we
to
go.
see Steve Guy telling jokes. And I'll sell some Memoirs of a Wingman books out there, too. Closing out the show.
I'm deleting that from the show. That's the power of being the producer.
You ever done a comedy show out in Menor, Ohio there, John?
No, I've done a girl out in Menor, Ohio.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now we're talking.
Who hasn't done a girl in Menor, Ohio?
Man, I love those Menor girls.
Yeah, some of them, they're
I
nice.
hope my girlfriend doesn't listen to this. I try to solicit an affair on this podcast.
Oh, man.
I'll make sure I tweet it out for you.
That's all right.
The time.
I'll talk my way out of it.
It wasn't me. All right. Any final thoughts, guys? Any final comments?
No, I just want to say thanks for let me talk business with you guys for the last hour or so. It was definitely very enjoyable.
It's a great time.
I didn't have to plug in a headset to my computer. I came down to this
Blog
nice,
Talk Radio.
yeah, came down to this nice studio. I can't even believe this is a
Your
real
name's
thing.
on the board as one of our guests.
I know. I feel like this is like the most legit thing I'll ever do in my life.
Yeah. All right. So
follow me on Twitter,
There you go,
fans
yeah.
of the This Is
There
Awesome
you go.
Wrestling Show.
at AI Wrestling.
At John Thorne
I know.
He
AIW.
I know.
And remember, John Thorne is Thorne.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the E on it.
Yes.
This weekend, Samoa Joe will be in town for AI Wrestling, AIWrestling.com for the website to buy tickets, and look forward to an interview. Will we be able to interview him? Yeah?
To be honest, I don't know.
Come on.
Myself and Joe from Samoa have not had much interaction.
No, you've
No.
not talked to
So,
Joseph of Samoa.
We are gonna have to kind of do this on the fly. You never know. You never know
Yeah.
with this guy.
We'll be ready. We'll be ready.
I could definitely probably get you Alex Daniels for sure.
Come on.
But no, we'll hook you guys up with some good interviews.
Yeah, we always do. We truly appreciate it, and anybody we get for the next few
Just-
weeks will be airing
I'm
it
excited
on the
to
show.
see Scorpio again.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite people to talk to.
Do you think
so
we
far.
should probably get him on the show again? He likes
he wants-
us.
if
He
he
opened
wants,
up.
yeah.
And he doesn't do too many podcasts. So
No.
that was he doesn't even do too many wrestling appearances. So.
No,
No.
he's great. He's just great to hang out with.
Yeah, great. So we'll get some interviews this weekend. We'll be airing those in the next few weeks, and then we have NXT coming here to Cleveland, middle of June. You have the pay-per-view in Columbus, NXT in Columbus, and you have Raw here in Cleveland. So look for us promoting those events and getting some interviews with some WWE superstars as well. So look for that. So plenty of interviews coming your way right here on the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Make sure to support the network, CLEsound.com. Plenty of other shows. You have Take 3, Catherine Boyd's show, Worthy of a Jersey. CLE Sound, they're all on iTunes, so all you do is subscribe and they're delivered to your mobile device. Make sure to go on your device and let us know how you feel about us by rating and leaving a comment for our show.
Unless you think we suck.
Yeah. Well,
Then shut up. Keep it to
any
yourself.
kind of comments is good because it raises our iTunes ranking. We need
Got to
we
get
need
your
that.
algorithm up. Rate, subscribe, review.
Yes, all on iTunes. This is Awesome Wrestling Show. CLEsound.com is the website. And make sure to check out Steve next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, March the 27th.
In
Totes Place.
In
Menor,
Menor.
Ohio.
Also, give me feedback if you think I have a good, soothing voice.
You do.
There you go. Make sure to tweet at me, Glenmore CLE.
At the Steve Guy.
And we will talk to you next week right here on the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.